One of the most common questions I receive regards big game calibers for Africa and the rifles that you use. And I thought, well, maybe I'll build a video out of the questions. And this video is especially for a fellow named Brett, who has a fantastic project. He's got a great collector, great hunter in Australia, I think. He specifically wanted to know whether it would make sense to get one of the bigger Mauser actions. So I thought, fair enough, that's a good question. And a lot of people asked about using a Mauser 98, for example, to build, let's say, a major rifle. It can be done, and I think I showed you before, although I'm not positive. 404 Jeffrey. So that's a big round, and I'll try to remember to mention the ballistics. So the 404 Jeffrey, which is right here, these two rounds are 404 Jeffrey. They flank the 375, and that's a 416 Rigby. 404 Jeffrey is, I looked it up, 2,300 feet per second for a 400 grain bullet, and the 416 Rigby is actually a little faster, about 100 feet per second faster with a 400 grain bullet. So they're very similar rounds. Of course, the Rigby is a legendary round, and so is the 404 Jeffrey. Anyway, here's a Mauser 98, Gewehr 98. So you've all seen this action many times, and it looks probably, a little bit short. So you have to open the magazine box, which we don't have to focus on it. You have to lengthen the magazine box, and you have to be careful with the feed ramp. This was built by Gary Flock. He's an excellent gunsmith and made a terrific stock, which I'll show you in a moment. And I think we took this out one summer and made a video. I'm not sure who made the barrel, but it's got everything that you would want on an African rifle. It's got the barrel band, sling swivel. This to me looks like a New England Custom Guns classic ramp, front sight, and then I guess somebody wanted an aperture sight on the back, so you can see that. And maybe it should have a quarter rib or an island rear sight. It wouldn't be too difficult to get one from New England Custom Guns, NECG. I buy lots of stuff from them. Nothing fancy on the floor plate, which is fine. It's still kind of the military configuration, although the screws are different. And that's essentially it. So you're looking at a fairly small action for these large cartridges, but it does work. And this rifle is very accurate. I'll now move to the stock so you get an idea of what's what with these. So it's got these cross bolts for reinforcement, and Gary put some glass bedding, epoxy bedding, wonderfully styled, typical kind of British sporter stock. Handles extremely well, and this is one of the hardest pieces of walnut, just terrific, holds checkering very well. So anyway, if you're thinking of building an African rifle on a Mauser 98, I can't see why you wouldn't do it. I had a Zastava for a while, 375, which is also a fairly long cartridge. That's the nickel plated one that we just showed you a minute ago. And maybe it'd be useful just so that you get an idea by looking at the stock. So this is the 98 in 404 Jeffrey, and then this is the 416 Rigby. This is built by Rigby. This is the real deal, and you can see that the action is substantially larger. You can tell by the inletting, and I'll flip it around. It's even more obvious when you see the floor plate. It's not, incredibly larger, but it's larger. And I'll show you the Rigby now, which is probably one of the finer rifles I own. Now, you pay to own a Rigby, but they do some, nice things. It's got a rapid taper barrel, so that gives you a lot of meat at the chamber. This is good. And then it tapers down, of course, so that at the muzzle, It's not a stovepipe. It's actually a very dynamic rifle. And you know, to make these videos, I always have to decide, take them apart or don't take them apart. But I'm assuming if people are building things, they want to probably see more the internals than the complete rifle. But you know, I can put them together for the next video. Also the barrel band sling swivel. It's Rigby. It's got an excellent quarter rib, and then this particular rifle has these quick release rings and bases. They'll remind you a lot of EAW, and they may well be, but I think they're probably especially made for Rigby. Beautiful drop box magazine, and this is something to consider. You can put, I think I put 4 rounds in here, or 3, I can't remember. I think it was 3 rounds of 416. So, and then 1 in the chamber. So you've got about 5,000 pounds of energy per round. So you got a lot. You got a lot of energy. Of course, you know, you're sometimes after things that can hurt the hunters. So it's maybe not a bad idea. That's the 416 Rigby, and then the one that actually surprised me was the Brno, and I actually have 2 or 3 of these. I bought them way back. I must have had some kind of idea. I bought 416 Rigbys and 458 Win Mags and 375s. It's the, like I said, it's the 550. But I didn't open them, and I was going to open the 416 for filming, but then I thought maybe I'll just leave it closed. So I did have the 375, and I'll just set the target there, and you can see that's a 100-meter target. They unfortunately didn't date the target, but for a rifle with iron sights, I thought that's pretty good. Anyway, the rifle's here, and you know, if you're determined to have a custom-made rifle, that's fantastic. I encourage that always. But if for some reason you just want to buy a rifle that's ready to go, I couldn't find anything lacking as usual in the Brno. I liked everything. It's got it reinforced here forward of the wrist. They've got a steel block right here behind the recoil lug, and they've got a steel block in the fore end. Of course, that means that there's a screw in here, which I've never had any problem with, by the way. You know, you're probably used to all rifles should have free-floating barrels, and that's fine. I've owned plenty of barrels, Winchester Model 70s, with the screw into the barrel, and I guess I just don't shoot enough those particular rifles to notice a point of impact shift or anything like that. But for an African rifle, it's completely acceptable to have a reinforced fore end, and of course with a 375, I don't think you're going to be running into stringing problems or even any way of measuring stringing problems. Stringing means that the bullets move vertically, or the barrel expands vertically. It could be horizontal too, but most frequently people tell me that with anything other than a free-floating barrel, they start having stringing as the barrel heats up. Anyway, I just mention it because people write me a lot about that. So that's the stock, and you know, no cheek piece, no shadow line, but pretty decent piece of walnut, and straight through the wrist, so excellent. Set that down, and here's the Brno action. I mean, this thing is amazing. Now, like I said, I wanted to get the number of rounds right, so I was able to put 5 rounds, and actually I think the book says 4, but I had no problem with 5, and then another in the chamber of 375 H&H, and I'll give you the ballistics in a second. This is a all steel, excellent action. There's nothing lacking, and as you may know, there are people that buy these big guns, and some people make it to Africa, but some people just use the 375, especially for everything. But there are folks who write me from Alaska that use a 458 or a 458 lot. Win Mag or Laud. It's got a hooded sight, it's got a barrel band front sight, it's got an island rear sight, and it's got 1, 2, 3 leads, so 300 yards. I mean, it's got the works, and everything is very intelligently done, so that where there's an advantage to movement, like the screw in the forend, there is movement. I'll show you the trigger. I like this, that you can see the mechanism, and very easy to clean this trigger. I don't think it's an overly complicated trigger, but I still prefer the original Mauser design. And then it has the typical Brno dovetails on the top of the action. So it truly has kind of everything that you'd be looking for. And like I said, I've got this in 416 and 458 Win Mag. I'm not sure if they offered 458 lot. Maybe they do now. I think somebody wrote me that they offer the big Gibbs round, maybe the Jeffrey too, the 500. Not sure. Any of these will accomplish anything you need to do over there. And I'll just quickly grab this box of 375 ammo. So velocity of the 375 now, of course the bore is smaller, so the bullet is 300 grains, 2,440 feet per second, and just under 4,000 pounds of energy. So I mean, yeah, any one of these and you have just immense firepower. People like the 375 and they write me a lot about it because you get that trajectory, which is quite similar to a 30-06. But of course the horsepower in the 375 is phenomenal, and in a lot of the African countries that's the minimum legal caliber. And why did I put this Siamese Mauser out? I think just to show you the length of the action relative to some of these rounds. This is a little bit confusing because the magazine box is at an angle because the Siamese round is rimmed, so they stack differently. But you know, it's not a huge action. Maybe it's not a bad idea to get one of these Brno actions and then either build on that. Some people build on the Enfield. I've seen the P17 or P14 for that matter, Enfield, huge and very strong, more than enough room to accommodate anything. So there you have, whatever this is, a $15,000 rifle, and then a custom rifle, the Gary Flock rifle, which has some wonderful features. It's the lightest and easiest to carry, and I think I mentioned before I like that 404 Jeffrey round, and this incredibly strong walnut and beautiful styling. It's great, and that often happens. If you have an excellent gunsmith, they can put together something that is quite close to a Rigby product or someone like that, and the cost is a lot lower, and then you have something unique, which is kind of a nice thing. But as far as a workhorse, that Brno is hard to beat, and I'm sure there are lots of other rifles out there, but this is what I had around. This table is too cluttered already, so I put away the 458 ammo. Anyhow, I hope that's useful for you, and Brett, I hope your project and all your projects, which are interesting, go well. And yeah, so it'll be an interesting thing to see where you end up deciding with which action. But other than that, maybe I will finish up and wish you all well and see you on the next video. Until then, take care, and good luck with everything.